The opinions, views, and conclusions expressed in this show are those of the show host and co-host and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of KPFV FM or its affiliates.
KPFV LP 98.1 FM presents Changing the Planet One Mind at a Time, PM with your host, Gail Gia. Good afternoon, this is Gail of Gaia, and we are here today with a special guest, Doc Glenn, and we'll talk about him in a minute, but I have a little story that I'd like to read to you, and because I think it is something that will touch your heart and has a important message for today. The name of it is You Are Your Brother's Keeper, and this is how it goes. Father O'Malley asked that I talk about ethical notions of the sort that would qualify as growing within a person's interior self and not simply a set of lessons learned from without. Be assured that I'm not just building a set of guideposts for prison or for more general military setting. My conclusions are infinitely general. From this 8-year experience, I distilled one all-purpose idea plus a few corollaries. It is a simple idea, an idea as old as the scriptures, an idea that is the epitome of high-mindedness, an idea that naturally and spontaneously comes to men under pressure. If the pressure is intense enough or of long enough duration, this idea spreads without even the need for enunciation. It just takes root naturally. It's an idea that in this big, easy world of yakety-yak seems to violate the rules of game theory, if not reason. It violates the idea of Adam Smith's invisible hand, our ideas of human nature, and probably the second law of thermodynamics. That idea is that you are your brother's keeper. That's the flip side of what's in it for me. If you recognize the first as an expression of virtue and the second as an expression of vice, as I'm sure any student of Father O'Malley would, let Bacon's distinction and relevance to my concentration on adversity on this graduation day of joy. Adversity doth best induce virtue, while luxury doth best induce vice. That's by James Stockdale from the Thoughts of a Philosophical Fighter Pilot. That's from the first chapter, a commencement address Stockdale gave in 1981 called The Melting Experience, Grow or Die, in which he talks about his 8 years in prison shaped his character. Rule number 1, you are your brother's keeper, period. The question is not, what's in it for me? The question is, how can I help? As Martin Luther King Jr. taught, the first question which the priest and the Levite asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Good Samaritan reversed the question, if I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? Christopher McDougall tells us that leading with love and compassion is the root of the ancient Greek word for hero. In natural-born heroes, he says, and what Plutarch taught them is this: heroes care. True heroism, as the ancients understood, isn't about strength or boldness or even courage. It's about compassion. When the Greeks created the heroic ideal, they didn't choose a word that means dies trying or massacres bad guy. They went with heroes, protector. Heroes aren't perfect, with a god as one parent and a mortal as the other. They're perpetually teetering between two destinies. What tips them toward greatness is a sidekick, a human connection who helps turn the spigot on the power of compassion. Empathy, the Greeks believed, was a source of strength, not softness. The more you recognize yourself in others and connected with their distress, the more endurance, wisdom, cunning, and determination you could tap into. Heroes care. They're willing to go beyond the call of duty to protect and to love. In the age of the selfies, it's more important than ever for us to shift our focus from what's in it for me to how can I be my brother's keeper, which begs the question, how can you help more today? So that little lesson be as it is, I think it's very important that we be our brother's keeper and we stand up for people who are speaking the truth nowadays because they are under siege.
Hallelujah.
And so, let me introduce our guest for today, Dr. Glenn. He's new in town. He's a chiropractor. And I would like to give him the seat here. And why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, thank you. Happy to be here. Well, you see, how did I end up here? People always ask that first. Well, how did you find Pahrump?
Exactly. Why did you pick
and it's
Pahrump?
the way they say that, Pahrump. I'm like, what? I like it here.
It is nice.
A friend actually discovered it and moved here several years ago. And
That's what happened to me, too.
Yeah, came and visited, and I thought, yeah, I like high desert. I've been there before, lived in it. And I was in Ventura, California, where cost of living and all is pretty crazy. And I thought, this could be maybe a little easier life out here, a little less stress. And I grew up in a farm community, so we were able to ride our dirt bikes and everything. In fact, the high school gave us a section of the parking lot to park our dirt bikes, so we could ride our dirt bikes to school. And you could shoot and hunt and have all this kind of fun and freedom. But that was when California was a good place to be.
Uh-huh.
That's all changed now.
It's gotten very expensive nowadays, too.
Okay. Yes, and especially in Ventura, it's a beach town, so the cost of living there is quite high. And
I love the beach stuff.
Yeah, and
I do miss that out here.
And when we get into the model of the business, I've always been a cash guy. I've never used credit. So when I buy something, I pay for it. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know about most folks, but I don't have $500,000 to $750,000 cash sitting around to buy a fixer-upper in Ventura. Uh-huh. So I looked at Pahrump as an opportunity to come here and actually have a life without, well, I guess you could say the man draining you so darn much. So that's how I kind of ended up here. I saw an opportunity. I bought a place, and that was 7 years ago, and I moved out here 2.5. Didn't open a practice right away because I had hurt a shoulder, and it took a while to get past that. Oh, yeah, torn supraspinatus
That's
tendon.
funny because I hurt my shoulder this last week, too. I'm going, oh, my goodness.
And
That's ironic.
then it took time. I had to jump through all the hoops. I'd been out of school so darn long that they changed some of the game. And
they think your brain's turned to silly putty, don't they?
Or something, yeah. No, I've only been in practice for over 30 years. I
know.
I don't know
I ran
anything.
into that, too, as a nutritionist. I go, oh, okay, you mean I forgot everything, right? No.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I've always tried to keep up.
Well, you forget the nonsense that you don't use, which is so largely on the tests. So I had to relearn all that and then jump through all the bureaucratic hoops of obtaining a license in Nevada.
Oh, you know what? I can relate to that so much because I passed the test for being an RD 3 times. I'm not one right now, so I'd have to pass it again if I wanted to go back. I said, I don't need it.
Were these different
I don't need it. And besides, a lot of the philosophies that they have nowadays, I don't agree with anyway. But anyway.
Yeah,
that's
actually,
a whole
within
story.
chiropractic, with that story in chiropractic, we sort of have a dichotomy. There's, even when I was in school over 30 years ago, we called them the mixers and the straights.
The mixers and the what?
And the straights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, straight chiropractic is where, you're adjusting people, you're getting them well by turning the nervous system back on so the brain and the body can communicate and, they run the tissue cell like it's supposed to and regenerate the tissue cell. Well, then the mixers, they use therapies and all that.
Uh-huh.
And
what kind of therapies?
well, you've got your ultrasound, your TENS, your galvanism. You've got now we've got interferential and we've got cold laser, and some of them are getting close, but I never used them because none of them stimulate the body to grow healthy tissue. They'll numb you out, they'll sedate the nerves so you don't feel it so much, which is beneficial in some cases. But my focus is, let's get you well. Not let's cover it up. It's just like taking a drug.
Yeah.
That's not helping. At least there's no side effects with it.
They get you to be the best possible that you can be.
Yes, exactly. And then after that, if we're still having troubles, then we can look at other things like, okay, let's bring this in. Your body is sort of stuck here.
Compromised.
Right. Like you get run over. I've had people that were pinched between trains and all kinds of.
Gosh.
There's some major injuries there that going to be very difficult to try to overcome. So those are the kind of people you look at, okay, what else are we going to do here besides just getting your body maximized as much as it can be, and it's still not quite what it should be. Now we look at other things. But I tend to not use the therapies. I'm looking at nutritional support. I'm looking at lifestyle changes. I'm real heavy into posture. Because
sounds like you have a holistic approach.
Oh, maybe, yeah, something like that, yeah.
That's a foreign word in healthcare sometimes.
These days, yeah. But
that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
So yeah, how I ended up here was just sort of a fluke. If it hadn't been for a friend finding the place, I never would have known about it.
Wow, well, that's 2 flukes here then.
Yeah.
But I've come to really enjoy Pahrump. I like it. It's small town atmosphere, and it's not big city. And if you want to go to big city, you haven't got very far to go to Vegas.
Nope.
And you can always find everything there.
Yeah, I've never liked big cities. I've never been a city guy.
Me either. I consider myself a country girl. And anyway, where did you get your training at?
College called Life Chiropractic College. Now, there's 2 campuses. There's one in Georgia and one out in California. That's the one I attended. We call it Life Chiropractic College West.
Oh, okay.
Good education there. Very good education. Had good teachers. Had access to some very skilled guys that were donating their time. I was involved in a couple of extracurricular study groups that were really serious. If you didn't show up a couple times, you better have a major excuse like 3 deaths in your family, otherwise you're out. Because we considered that these guys are closing their offices early. They're donating their equipment, their time, their knowledge, and expertise so that we can become good chiropractors. And, would meet up, pair up, analyze, describe what the problem is, and then try to fix it. And, of course, early on, when your victim couldn't take the beating anymore, the doctor would come over and adjust it. And then, of course, the frustration was, but I thought I was doing the same thing. And it didn't work. So it takes time, to develop that skill. And I remember when one of us asked those guys, well, how do you know that you know? When is it you know that you know? And their answer was, after about 10,000 adjustments.
10,000?
Oh, I did that.
Right I feel sorry for the students.
That's really.
Or the patients, I should say.
Well, yeah, especially as an intern.
But heck, I'd rather be that with chiropractors than with surgeons. So.
Exactly. Well, the interesting thing is, some people are just naturals and others aren't. And sounds like I'm tooting my own horn. I didn't realize that I was kind of one of the big shots in clinic because I was just doing my thing. I was just taking care of people. I remember I was asking for a list of files for patients I was going to see that afternoon when I was an intern. And there's a friend standing next to me. And I'm getting another file, and they're going and getting another one, and he's waiting for just a couple files. And he says, how many files are you getting? I said, I don't know, 10 or 15 or something here right now. He goes, oh, God, I wish I had that many patients. How do you see that many in the afternoon? And I didn't think anything of it. I was just doing my job, taking care of people. So
must have been more taking care of people than doing your job, because that
that is my job.
Is what makes the difference.
Yeah. So I just I think I take a lot for granted sometimes that I just assume everybody
has the same attitude, and unfortunately that's not true. Yeah. I know what you're talking about, though, because it does make a difference, and not everybody has the same. Some people, it really is just a job. And oh, guy, I wonder if this guy ended up in jail. There was a classmate that, of course, I've lost touch with, but someone told me that they went and visited him, and he went and saw a patient and walked back to the room and rubbed his hands together and said, it's like a license for printing money. Wow, that's the wrong attitude. That is not a good attitude at all.
And some of us laughed and said, with the stuff that guy's doing, he's going to end up in jail. And I don't know if he ever did, but with that kind of attitude, it's very likely.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of MDs like that, I'm afraid. But anyway.
Oh, well, that's a whole different group.
That's a whole different ball game. But as a matter of fact, weren't they pretty hard on chiropractors way back when?
Well, they still are, for that matter,
but
they're more subversive than they used to be. They used to be overt with it.
They used to call you quacks, didn't they?
Oh, quacks and cultists. And then if an MD even said hello to a chiropractor, they could lose their medical license.
Are you serious?
Let alone shaking hands and going to dinner with them. You'd definitely lose your... Oh, no, I'm dead serious. They were really brutal. And
well, they're brutal right now today because if an MD comes out and says he doesn't believe in vaccinations or he thinks that they should even be evaluated more closely, he's, sticking his neck out there.
in fact, I wonder
But I
how
say
long...
more power to him.
Exactly. There's a guy in San Francisco I learned about that does a genetic analysis on people. And he can prove with about 98% of the population that they have a genetic propensity to a reaction with a vaccine.
Really?
And that gives the child the exemption they need to not be vaccinated for school.
They're
don't
trying to
know.
take away the exemptions too.
Well, they took it away in California.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about Nevada at this point, but yeah, there used to be a personal or religious belief exemption, and they just took it away. And what's interesting is no time since Nazi Germany has it been okay for anyone
to be forced vaccination.
Forced to take something into their sovereign body, their skin. That's the only thing we really own. In fact, Nuremberg, we hung people for doing just that, for war crimes.
It sounds like we need to do some more of that. That sounds pretty bad, but I don't like what's happening with vaccinations either. And I was just reading about a study out of China where they had recognized, they've been trying to force vaccinate pregnant women.
Oh, boy.
And it sets off a cytokine reaction in the fetal brain, and that may go on forever, and resulting in the reasons why there's so many neurological defects that can actually be traced back to vaccines. But generally speaking, it's not seen that way because it's too subtle for a lot of people to recognize.
Well, they call it something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of calling it vaccine reaction, they call it encephalopathy. They've got meningitis. They have any other number of names they might call it, but it's still a vaccine reaction. And the sad thing is, in our era, and I'm not going to say how old we're.
Okay, I'm glad of that.
What our ages are.
I'm glad of that.
But what we had 3 vaccines.
Comparatively speaking.
We have like 60 now that kids get stacked up before they're 18 months.
And and they still have this mantra of that they're safe and effective, and it just makes me so angry. And I think it's hilarious that the new Kennedy guy that's coming out and doing this is asking for $100,000 to prove that they're safe. That's because the studies have never been done. Never.
Because they've buried the studies that show they're not. Tell me, mercury is good for you?
Yeah.
Really? And it's not mercury.
I
We
had
don't
a
put
dentist
mercury
tell me
anymore. No,
that
it's
once.
thimerosal
I actually
now.
had a dentist had the audacity to tell me it was okay to put mercury in my child's
Mouth.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, now everybody knows. Pull those out because.
Yeah, but the idea that these vaccines, that they still have thimerosal in them, and
aluminum.
And aluminum, and that's how they did the comparative study. They put mercury in one and they put aluminum in the other. Now that's not how you do a controlled study. Not from the school I came from.
No. Heresy.
Yeah, exactly. So this mantra is just a propaganda line that they've come up with: safe and effective, safe and effective.
And if they're so safe and effective, emphasis on effective, what are they afraid of? If your child isn't vaccinated, they say, "Oh, you're a danger." Well, wait a minute. If your vaccines work so well, what are you afraid of? If my kid gets sick, you can't get sick. You're protected. Your vaccines work, right?
Exactly. And the funny part of it is, too, they make it sound like the unvaccinated are the ones that get the vaccinated sick, when it's just the opposite. That's true.
Exactly, it is. It is. I know so many people, that, of course, in my profession, I hang with more of the conventional straight chiropractic type. I have lots of friends who've never vaccinated their kids. They're the healthiest kids. They were never out of school sick. And now
that's what's coming out finally. Only it had to happen first in other countries where you actually see, the vaccinated and unvaccinated. And they don't like to talk too much about the Amish because most of them don't get vaccinated and they don't get these autism rates like that. No. I mean, Dr. Senoff was saying from MIT that 1 in 45, pretty soon it'll be 1 in 2 with autism if we keep vaccinating at this rate. And there has never, ever been any studies that indicated that, not only is one vaccine bad, but when you pile them up 60 at a time,
oh my gosh.
The damage that can be done neurologically and chronic disease and autoimmune diseases manifesting at a later stage in life is just
I have high hopes.
Drives me crazy.
Well, Kennedy actually has videotape of a meeting at the CDC where they discovered that they missed some things with these vaccines, and they were really upset. Some of these people were genuinely upset that, oh my God, how did we miss this? We're hurting people. And then it was brought up that, wait a minute, we have to keep this quiet because we're opening ourselves up to some massive lawsuits. He's got all this on video.
Oh wow!
So
that's why I can't
why
wait
he
to
was
see
put
that.
in place. Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the movie Vaxxed.
Yes, and
they were trying to censor that.
They still
are.
Yeah, they're trying to
that's
bury
just
it.
so amazing. Yeah, it is hilarious,
And
actually.
what
do you got to hide?
Be nice to really identify who they are, but there's so many,
Yes.
and it goes so deep that
Yeah.
and maybe
Dr.
one day we
Offit,
will.
He's a real good one. Didn't he say that any child should be able to take 10,000 vaccines or something like that? I say
let's do
stand
your
up here,
kid
let's
first.
give them to you.
Yeah, well, not even his kid. Your kid is innocent. Let's do you.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll see how safe they are.
Exactly. Yeah, they're okay for you, and it's an acceptable risk.
Acceptable.
Yes.
Unless it's your kid, right?
For the safety of the good, it's an acceptable risk.
And what's this about herd immunity? Is that a joke or what?
Herd immunity?
Yeah, that's what they call it.
I haven't heard about that one yet.
That's because it's a fallacy.
Well, it's like a herd mentality. I'm sure they're.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, they want a herd immunity, and that's why they all got to be vaccinated, so that you've got vast numbers that are vaccinated. But again, it goes back to, well, if you're vaccinated and I'm not, what are you afraid of if I get
Exactly.
sick? What's the problem?
They would
don't
tell
get it.
people with the exemptions in school is like, well, if there's an outbreak, if there's some sort of epidemic, you'll have to take your kid out of school. And I'm like, well, fine, yeah, I don't want my kid there. And how would there be an epidemic if everybody's
all
vaccinated and you're also
Yeah, they don't even. People don't critically think about these things. That's part of the problem.
That is a huge part of the problem. The definition of intelligence being the ability to gather information, analyze that information, and come to a logical conclusion is, that's, I guess you could call it common sense, which isn't all that common anymore.
Well, I know. That's a good one. Well, it seems as though people have had what was their good nature used against them.
They're trusting. Yeah, people
they trust in the people with white coat medicine, and they're not doing their homework. That's all I can say.
Well, it's because, and my father's as guilty as any of them. He comes from that generation. He's 84, and he's had 2 bypasses and a stent, and takes certain medications and still eats certain things. But you just have to shake your head and go, well, there's no sense fighting about it. But he's still of that generation. They say, I have to take it. Dad, no, there's alternatives. Look. And they have so much of that fear instilled in them. Mm-hmm. The medics are masters at fear tactics.
Oh, yeah, they're very intimidating.
Yeah,
it's just like with the cancer and the standard protocols, cut, poison, and burn, I call it. Yeah. And that's all that they can do. And they get someone... There's even some false positives there, but anyway, we won't go into that. But they get the person, we got to do surgery right away, or we got to do chemo start immediately.
Oh,
like
you're going to
die tomorrow.
Yeah, but we're beating them up pretty good. I want to qualify that. Okay. I'm the first one to come. I'm the first one to come to their glory when they're doing what they're good at. Emergency care, they're magicians.
I say the exact same thing when it comes to trauma and fixing things like that. They are the best. They are awesome.
But healthcare, they don't understand. They don't understand where health and disease comes from.
Yeah, chronic disease and that kind of thing. No, I'm sorry that they fall short in that area. But the other areas, they're awesome. And I'll be first to say that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that out, that we're bashing them pretty good. And I didn't want people to start saying, well, these people are just haters and tune out.
No, I'm not haters at all. I just want to bring the truth forward, and there is truth that needs to be known about vaccinations. They are not safe and effective. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, most doctors have been duped, just like the rest of the public have, because they were just trained in medical school that here's the schedule and this is what you do. And they didn't even look into what's actually in the vaccines themselves.
The ones that do are aren't talking for the most part, and the ones that are talking are the ones catching the heat and possibly losing their license.
They don't want to be Wakefield.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
And
you know what? If more of them stood up together, it wouldn't. We could help get past this problem. And I think some of them are coming forward, and my hat's off to them.
Yeah, that's the
'Cause
big if. Yeah, there's always that if, like my dad says, well, if the dog hadn't stopped the crap, he'd have caught the rabbit. You know, if,
yeah.
Why even discuss the if? But but yeah, you're right. I wish that people would, more of them would acknowledge that there's something wrong here. Maybe we should stop until we figure out what is wrong.
And the other aspect of it is they come to, over time, they came to believe that the alphabet agencies were actually out there to defend them and to take care of them, and weren't aware of that it was all about money and bribes and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, again, it's human nature, good nature, to believe that, well, I know they care about me.
And you know what?
That's what they're supposed to do.
What part of that is, it's hard for good people to comprehend the amount of sinister evil that those evil people have. It's just
beyond
they can't believe that
yeah.
somebody would do that when it happens every day. It happens in politics, it happens in it happens in Chicago, how many people get killed there and all this, but normal nice people, it's hard for them to see that as reality because it's just beyond their comprehension. It's like, well, I would never. Well, just because you wouldn't ever doesn't mean somebody else won't. Exactly.
And that's a whole nother area where that nobody ever wants to hear about, too, because it's so incomprehensible, and that's human trafficking and
oh, boy.
Child sex stuff. And that's just, people don't even want to hear it. But the sad part of it is we're going to have to take a look at this because this kind of stuff has got to stop.
It's a good example. It's so out there that people just, they look the other way. It's like, no.
Yeah, it can't be true. Can't be true. You heard that on the internet. Can't be true. But people, it is. It's sad. It's true. And something needs to be done about it. And sometimes the truth is ugly, but until it's recognized that it's there, it's never going to change. You have to stop and wonder, why are there so many missing children that are never found?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's a whole nother subject.
That's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show. We won't even go there any further. So let's go back to chiropractic. So what's the most common problem you see with people?
Oh, boy. Well, actually, there is no most common problem, but what brings people to the office most commonly is some sort of ailment. Oh, my neck hurts, my back hurts. The public still doesn't, even after all these years, the public still doesn't understand that every cell, every function, every chemical reaction, every function in your body, how everything interrelates, all the organs, your hormones, and all these other chemicals that are supposed to be in balance and working with each other, they're all combined and coordinated by the brain. And now when you say that, everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's right, I learned that in school. But, but the problem is people don't know that the only way that the brain does that is through the nervous system, your wiring harness. In that nervous system, almost all the nerves, besides a few cranial nerves, pass through your spine. So if your spine is not working right, if some sort of aberration there, it affects the nervous system. Now the communication line is not working properly. It may be scrambled or just blocked. And you're lucky if you feel pain from that. You've got maybe a 15% chance of having pain. All sensory is only about 25%. And that's light touch, heavy touch, vibration, hot, cold. Pain is only a little bit of that. So to think about it, you've got about a 75% or more chance that something else is going wrong in your body, and you don't even feel it yet. The nerves go into your kidneys to keep them regenerating and rebuilding themselves every day. Could be blocked. It's not as strong as it should be. So now your kidneys are deteriorating. 10 years, 20 years later, you got a kidney disease. When really it started
I
so
worked
much
in
earlier.
a kidney clinic, and I'll tell you what, that's not something you want to go wrong.
No, or anything. Your liver, your heart.
Yeah,
heart
they're
attack.
all bad. They're all bad. Your major organs, if they go down, you're in for ugly ride.
Yep. But they call that, people think, oh, that's got nothing to do with chiropractic. That's a disease. Well, as chiropractors, we like to call it dis-ease. The body's in dis-ease.
Yes.
And it starts with, basically, the power is turned down. So my job is to reduce as much as possible those blockages so that we maximize that power and your body and brain can communicate and maximize that tissue cell.
Okay, that's wonderful. And you know what? We're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back with Dr. Glenn in just a few minutes. Thank you very much.
The Last Free American Count, a show of the latest happenings in Nye County and surrounding area. Wednesdays at 12 p.m. on 98.1 FM KPFB. Your host, Andy Alberti.
You're listening to
98.1 FM, where freedom rocks your boat.
Alrighty then, we're back. And we're here with, this is Gail of Gaia, and we're here with Dr. Glenn. And we're talking about getting your spine in alignment so all your neurons are functioning and your circuitry is working in high order. So, where did we leave off?
Well, we just maximizing the tissue response and the capacity of your body by minimizing that interference in that in the wiring harness, your nervous system that carries the life-giving message.
Let's assume that we have the things in alignment. What other things might be able to interfere with that? Because I'm getting, as a nutritionist, I'm going to get at some other things.
Okay, well, the first step, see, I'm looking at things very mechanically from the get-go, of course, because I need to get all that sort of reconstructed so that the energy can flow properly. So the next thing I look at is posture.
Okay.
If you're not sitting right, you're not standing right, you're not walking right.
We're never taught that either.
No, and it's very simple when you understand some of the principles. Obtaining it is difficult because everybody's already learned and their bodies are programmed the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But once I show people, and we went through this in the office, that once you find that point of neutrality, that nice balance point where your posture is neutral, you feel weightless, and it's so foreign to people, it kind of bugs them out a little bit. It's like, whoa, I feel like I'm going to fall over or something. No, it's because you're it's like taking a pin and balancing it right on its tip. There's no forces or stresses anywhere that are bad for you. It's the bones are holding you up, so there's no stress there. Instead of the muscles the muscles are meant for movement, not for holding you up. Now, let me qualify that. To keep the balance, the muscles should be twitching just here and there, just to kind of keep everything balanced. And then you learn to move that way too. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sitting here and I see all this stuff over here to my left. This is making sense to someone else in the room because this ties directly into martial arts type of stuff, or gymnasts or ballet. Anybody who's done any kind of a body art knows what I'm talking about. You can't move freely if you're not moving through your center. So that's the hardest thing for people to learn.
Is that where they, like even in yoga, they want you to develop your core?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's where your strength comes from.
Well, it really gets into the dantian, the 1 point, your hara. There's different civilizations call it different things, but it's all the same. And
I'm
yoga.
not familiar with those terms. I bet the audience isn't either. So let me
right.
explain that.
It's sort of a spot basically behind your navel, and with what most people don't realize is that the martial arts began in India, and then it went to China and to
So it was
other
India
parts.
before China. You kind of
Yes.
think it's China before India. But
No, India is where it really started. And yoga actually was, and very few people understand this or even know how to apply it, but yoga was intended to train warriors' internal power, which is actually the working and manipulation of fascia rather than muscle. That's where these legends you see and hear about, the Chinese old masters doing things. Well, I've seen the real thing. And
Bruce
you know,
Lee.
I'm not that good yet, but it's the fascia that
It's
does
just
it.
something in the fascia is, I would assume, is involved in the stretching that's involved to some extent.
Well, yoga isn't stretching. Yoga is releasing.
feels like
in
it,
martial
though.
arts, we stretch, trying to, and it there's
There's a
so
difference.
much. Well, there's so much that goes on in health too, that is intent driven, and internal power, or the what we call IP, or what the Chinese call the reeling of silk, and that's sort of, we're getting off into a tangent.
Okay.
but
That's okay.
but it is interesting though, at least to me.
It is to me too. I think
they,
our audience would find it interesting too. Truthfully,
So they.
there's something fascinating about the martial arts.
And
Actually,
if you don't have the intent, it doesn't project the same way. So there is so much this. So I try, in most, what I have to start with in the office is some of the very basics. Just having people feel where, that balance point is. And what we're talking about here is some really pretty advanced martial arts stuff that you've got to be fairly advanced into it just to comprehend really what the discussion's about. So I don't know if we really need to go down there. We might bore people with it because it it really gets kind of crazy and very esoterical. It's
okay. So the intent is important. Is what a large part of it. But there's other aspects in the training that is actually valuable to the average person, I would think, some training anyway.
Yes, and the intent in healing as well. If you're thinking, I'm sick, I'm going to die, well, guess what? It's going to be really hard to pull you out of that.
Thoughts have power.
You need to put healing thoughts and well thoughts down that nervous system, not
I'm
sick
healthy,
thoughts.
I'm good, I'm
Yeah.
that
Even
kind of thing.
if something's staring you in the face, like here's an example. And this has been proven. I can't cite the studies, but just the thought process and the verbalization of, for a smoker, saying, I'm a non-smoker. Even when they have a cigarette in their hand or are taking a puff of it, they keep telling themselves, I am a non-smoker. And eventually their brain and body will get it, and they stop smoking.
That's cool. That's funny because I used to smoke many years ago, and I remember, and I stopped and started a couple different times. I'm sorry to say, but I remember that whenever I did stop, I would have to psych myself up for it, and that's part of what you're saying.
It just keeps saying, I'm a non-smoker, and that's a whole nother. Well, I won't even get into that because we're going to go down another rabbit hole. That's
Okay.
relative.
But anyway, your thoughts are very important, and have you? There's a YouTube video you can watch, or people could watch if you want to get a handle on some of this, and that's The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No, I haven't. No.
He's really good. He's a biologist, and he has the biology of belief, and basically what you tell yourself will manifest.
Basically, your reality is in your own mind's eye. You create your reality with your mind. If you want to be happy, then no matter what's going on, you can be happy.
Still be happy.
What's
yeah.
interesting is the hardest thing in life for us to control are our thoughts. But
That's so true.
the
'Cause we've
dichotomy?
been so programmed. Those subconscious thoughts that you were developed when you were very young are very powerful, and if some of them were negative,
Right.
you need to reverse them.
But
and
the
reprogram them.
dichotomy is, it's the only thing. Those thoughts are really the only thing that we truly have full control over. But it's the hardest thing.
Yes, because this is so true. I hope you're listening out there because this is powerful information. Your thoughts have power. And if you're saying things to yourself that are negative, you got a lot of negative self-talk, that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
You really have to concentrate on thinking what you want, not thinking what you don't want.
Exactly. I always try to speak, and of course, nobody's perfect.
I fight with
make my
myself all the
mistakes.
time about it.
I always try to come from the affirmative. When you say, "Don't run that stop sign," what do? Run the or don't think of blue. Don't you think of blue? What you just thought of blue.
Yes, exactly.
So come from the affirmative. What do you want? Think of red. Or stop. There's a stop sign. Be sure and stop there. Just those are very basic examples, and you can go really deep into just that way of thinking. But when you're trying to communicate and even self-communicate, speak to yourself from the affirmative, the reactions are much better.
Oh, you know what that brought to mind? that brought to mind were like 75-80% water, correct?
Or more, yeah, depending on
Yeah.
how much you drink.
And what does yeah? And
As a
what
child,
does
you're higher, but yeah.
what does water have? Water has memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so, bringing up Dr. Emoto's work and thinking about what we're just talking about thoughts having power, and he would take water and he'd flash freeze it and he'd put like "I love you" on it, and it would turn out this beautiful snowflake. Or if he put "I hate you" on it, it would turn out this ugly, distorted mess. And so the same thing is happening inside of our body and the water in our body by what our thoughts are.
Yep. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with his work a bit. I haven't dived into it or dove into it. Excuse
It's
me.
awesome. I think he has
yeah.
since passed.
Oh yeah. Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
think-
know
I think
that.
he
That's
did,
sad.
Yeah, I think he did. He was awesome. The stuff that he came up with. I ran into that quite a few years ago, and I was, it was a jaw dropper type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sad to hear he's gone. I don't know. There was a fellow, I don't know why my mind went to this. There was a fellow that was instrumental in proving chiropractic as viable when we were still quacks and cultists. That was University of Colorado, Dr. Chung Ha Su, I think was his name. And he did a tremendous amount of research that proved things that we were being called quacks and cultists for was true. The nervous system controlling the body, and so many of the other
Oh,
details.
and that's where Chinese medicine, I think, is ahead of Western medicine. They were into the meridians and the flow of qi and all that sort of thing.
Yep, and what's interesting is
now
science is
energy
proving that
medicine is-
right.
Pardon?
Now, the interesting thing is science is now proving all that right.
Right, I know. And here they're calling these people quacks and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it's horrible.
Well, you
but-
think about it. The Chinese have been doing surgeries without anesthesia and doing so many of the things that they have done for 3,000 to 5,000 years, and Western medicine is 150 years old.
Hundred, maybe
Yeah,
at the most.
not even a couple hundred.
Yeah.
It all started with Rockefeller and that whole monopolization scheme. But
Yeah.
we've been around for about 100 years, science, and we know more than
The ones
the-
that have been
then the
around
ch-
for a couple thousand
yeah,
years.
been
Thank you very
using it.
much.
And a lot of their stuff is quite scientific as well. Even ancient.
Mm-hmm.
Applied, if you analyze it with by today's standpoints, okay, it wasn't scientific, but they didn't have the technology we have today.
Mm-hmm.
So to think that they discovered the things they discovered with what they, let's say, didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
I find fascinating, and really, I think it gives credit to the higher power that
Oh,
they were
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
meditating and everything and pulling in some knowledge that wouldn't be available
From
otherwise.
the universal mind.
Yeah.
Yes. And they use a lot of herbs as well.
Mm-hmm. Herbs,
and
acupuncture,
Mother
bugs.
Yeah, yeah. Things that they
Tale
just
of
laughed
Newt.
at. We used to laugh at over here. It's really sad, but now they're finding out all these things are true. In fact, they're trying to incorporate them into practices because people are trying them and finding out, hey, this actually works.
Yeah, well, the pharmaceuticals, they look at it, they try to break it down to its component parts and then recreate it synthetically and say, hey, well, here it is.
'Cause then they can
This is
patent it.
better. Yeah, then they can patent it and make
And
a
the
ton
sad
of money.
part of it is they take the active ingredient and they tweak it, so they change it a little bit chemically, and then it isn't as well recognized by the body, and it doesn't have the other phytochemical protectants that the whole plant has.
Well, we can't have something working that well and be a broad spectrum, because then we wouldn't be able to sell you the next drug.
Yes, and the next one that I'll treat you for the side effects of the previous one.
yeah.
And the list goes on and on. And I've seen elderly people that are on 10, 15 different drugs, and I just shake my head and go, oh,
Well,
my
but
goodness.
now we're medical bashing again, but it's so but it's so fun
And it's so true.
and so true. Yes,
Oh, well, sometimes the truth hurts.
exactly. As I let the crumbs fall where they may. Is that the saying?
Yeah, something like that. Okay, well, when we were back talking about the circuitry of the body, isn't our body electric to a certain extent?
Well,
I mean, as far as circuitry, I'm thinking of fire.
it is, but not as we truly know electricity. It is electrical, but it's not electricity. And I know there's
Okay, yeah,
there's
okay, I get what you're saying.
it's a fine line
Do we
we're
have a
splitting
hertz,
there.
though? Do we have a hertz value?
Um,
I think we do.
I don't think there. Well, we do have a basic electrical charge.
Like
you can
around
measure.
68 to 78, something like that. 62 to 78.
The number escapes me right now.
I'm pretty
But
sure
yeah,
that's in the ballpark.
And that's something we measure for certain therapies. Is it increasing the cellular voltage? When you're sick and cancer, that sort of thing, the cellular voltage is way down.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, there was this vibroacoustic bed that Justin has over at Back to Roots.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they have the different frequencies for the different body parts, basically, that may be giving you a problem or what have you. And one of the things that I found in when I was looking into that is that when someone has cancer, I believe the normal body hertz is somewhere between 62 to 78. But if you have cancer, it's something like 42.
You know, I'd like to see that. I find that surprising because 60 hertz AC current in our homes, it's one of the worst environments for us to be in.
It sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
But it's 60 hertz, and if the body, it's probably maybe not 60 hertz, but maybe it's a millihertz or something like that, or
maybe. I don't know
if it's fast or slow. Yeah, that's something I haven't read up on.
It's pretty interesting.
But there's so many interesting things happening that they're actually applying
into
scientific
medicine.
study. Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see what comes out from so many of these things.
Yeah, it's fascinating. They even had for that vibroacoustic bed, they had a CD that was the frequency of CBDs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
I just thought, really?
Well, there's been something out for a long time that they've been used on horses and so forth. There's a lot of stuff that you can use on animals, and the reason why it's not been used on humans is because the FDA puts restrictions on things. They call it a Class 1 device or a Class 3 device, and then you have to be very careful about what you say. So they just put it into the veterinary market, and all the animals benefit
just like in the
from
field
it.
of nutrition. Don't even get me started on the FDA and what you can say and what you can't say, because
well, yeah,
things that can actually heal and make you better, you can't say that.
Nope, can't say that one.
And you better not use the C word, and that means the cure word. You cannot, don't you dare use that word.
There's a thing called a Simon machine that uses sound waves. There's like a big puck thing you have in your hand, and it's very much like a Rife machine. There's several frequencies that is in a book that will tell you what that will affect, and different conditions that different frequencies will help. It might be a series of frequencies, much like a Rife machine. And that's very
CDs
helpful.
Are. You put on a
sound.
The
It's
bed
vibration.
Vibrates at that frequency. Now, frequency and hertz are the same thing, aren't they?
Yeah, that is hertz is the definition of frequency.
I was going to say, okay, because that's where I was getting those figures for the body from.
Yeah, well, hertz is cycles per second.
Okay.
So that's the definition of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm not an expert in that area by a long shot, but I find it fascinating, and I've done a little bit of study and research in it.
But yeah, the reason I brought up that machine is because you were talking about the vibrations, and there's more vibrations than just sound, but they've been proven that sound vibrations are beneficial. Then we come into color vibrations, light therapy.
Yeah,
light vibrations
that's a whole
are even
new area
beneficial.
too that I'd like to learn more about is that light therapy. That's fascinating.
Yep. So I'm interested in all this stuff that will help patients as well. The way, my standpoint, why I keep doing what I'm doing. I know I got staggered up there. My mind was going into a dozen things. Reason I keep doing what I'm doing and how I do it is because without that central nervous system communicating with the body, all these therapies aren't going to do much.
Exactly, because it's going to short circuit.
Yeah. So why I focus on that is let's get the center cleared, and then let's pile as much as you want of this other good stuff on there.
Yes, and then it'll really be.
Then you really start to shine.
Yeah. Literally, your aura will be big.
Yeah.
But then we get into another aspect of what you feed your body and how that affects it.
Well, you are what you eat. Remember the old saying? That was when did that come out? You are what you eat. Well, what does your body make? It's making itself new. It's reproducing itself every second. Right now, your body is making new cells. Well, what is it going to make those cells out of? What you've put in your mouth. You put junk, the old computer saying, garbage in, garbage out. Same thing with the body. Here's a perfect example. Go to the store and look what people have in their grocery cart. And then look up and see how they look. Do they look healthy?
I do that all the time, and there's a lot of people that don't look healthy to me, and I look in their cart and I go, it's no small wonder.
Yep. Soda
it's
pops,
sad.
crackers.
You know what I wanted to do? There was this machine, and I've been trying to find it, but I've seen it before, but it's been a while, and I'm trying to find it again because nothing is better than a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yep.
You can take this little device or whatever it is, and you can take like an organic food, and good living food is electrified. It has a hertz. It'll have you can use the Kirlian
photography, yeah,
if you
we'll
want
pick it
to.
up, yeah.
That's even more expensive, but this little device was actually somehow measured the hertz of the food or whatever. And you'll have food that's dead and food that has a hertz, and that's what your body needs. Because your body is electric, and that's what I meant by body electric. Not like you can plug yourself in and light up a light bulb or anything like that.
No.
You might be surprised what you could do if we really could.
Well, some people can do that. I've seen it, on TV.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
know.
Yeah. Here's what's interesting. I've been asked for years. I just had mentioned this yesterday with a patient. People would ask me forever. So, well, what should I be? What kind of a diet should I be on? I said, well, you can go down to the bookstore, start reading.
I hate the D word.
Yeah, you spend 3 months and be halfway through the first shelf, maybe. Here's a concept to take home with you. Eat your food as close to the way God created it as possible. Because every time...
That's perfect. I love that.
Every time we change it, we're not as smart as God, are we? Exactly. So every time we change it, we've kind of damaged it in some way. So
and
don't
then you
change
have the
it.
aspect of living food versus dead food, and I think the living food is winning too. And again, that's the food that God created. The fruit that you pick, the fruit, berries, and melons, I think, are a very important part of your diet. They have a tremendous detoxifying effect, and some of the other dead food isn't,
It's dead.
It's dead. What can I say? You can go down a whole couple of aisles of food, especially that processed food, and it's all dead.
Well, there's not much in a grocery store for me.
No.
I'll go over see what kind of an organic
say
section
you
they have.
You concentrate on all the outer portions, and that's where you find all your produce and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I steer people away from the GMOs too. People need to get to know what's a GMO and what's not a GMO, because that is causing chronic disease too.
Well, it's by definition, G, genetic, M, modified, O, organism. Genetically modified. They went into the DNA and they played with that. That's different than a hybridization of combining.
That's what people don't understand.
Right. You combine two different pollens and then you get a little bit of a variant of the same plant. That's not
But
bad.
it's still the same plant.
It's still the plant. You go in and you play with the DNA of that thing. Now it's a mutation. And now you're going to take that mutation and put it in your body. Your body rebuilds itself again today with that mutation. How do you think your DNA is going to stay healthy and reproduce a normal cell?
I said that on the radio years ago, and they laughed at me.
Yeah. Well,
They
now it's being
laughed at
proven.
me.
It's coming out. It's the truth. That's the beauty of the truth.
I
You
know.
can suppress it
The
for a
truth
while.
just is. It is true. And people will mock you, and people will ridicule you, and when it comes back, and
Eventually.
it's actually
Same
all
thing
said
with
and
my
done,
profession.
It's true.
It's the truth. So they tried to suppress it with the AMA. We'll get into that. I hope is that how they tried to suppress us, and they were found guilty. We had very minimal reparations, but anyway, that truth finally came forward, and
Yes, they
you
put
just couldn't hold
any
us
other
down.
healing profession that was competition for the American Medical Association was attacked viciously.
Yep. But like I said, the sad thing is that nobody else brought suit against them. 5 chiropractors back in, I think it was about 1985, 82.
Yeah,
I think
it's
82 or
in the
3 is
80s,
what it
early
was.
80s, I think,
It was called the Wilkes suit. 5 chiropractors filed suit against the AMA. And it was for methodically conspiring to contain and destroy a competitor, the chiropractic profession. They were found guilty. They, of course, and here it is. There's 5 chiropractors going to pick a fight with an organization that has more money than most countries.
Organization.
They have more money than most countries, and they're picking a fight with them. But they were found guilty.
More power to them.
Yeah. They appealed it. The appeal was upheld. I mean, the conviction was upheld on appeal, and that judge wrote it up so tight that when they tried to appeal it to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court looked at it and said, you guys are dirty. We're not even hearing this. So
Wow.
they had to make, and you saw nothing about this in the media. I saw maybe 3 times a little tiny blurb of how they were found guilty of this. And
Yes.
there was some very minimal financial reparations that had to come to the profession. I never saw a dime, but
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
somebody did.
Just like, that reminds me of, it's just like the Spirulina study on the GMOs where the rats got these grotesque tumors. I don't know if you ever saw the pictures of that. It was disgusting. And what they did is all of Monsanto's GMO studies would stop at 90 days because all the pathologies would show up after 90 days.
92 days, yeah.
Yes. And all of a sudden they start growing these huge, big tumors that, would gross you out just looking at them. And then Seralini did the same thing that this group of chiropractors did. They fought back. They fought back and they won. They
Good.
won, and now they've been vindicated because they discredited them and they called them quacks and their
yeah.
study wasn't set up right and blah, 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 blah. And they came back at them and they have won. But did you hear anything about that in the
Sure
mass
didn't.
media?
Nope. Well, I don't watch TV or anything anymore anyway.
Well, I don't
so.
either because they don't tell any
'Cause
truth.
that's
It's fake news.
Yeah, it's all junk. But the interesting about Monsanto is, as I understand it, the engineers in Monsanto won't even eat their own stuff because they know what it does. They
That's like
demand.
the doctors that won't do chemotherapy themselves, but they'll give it to patients.
Well, sure, it's a moneymaker. But in Monsanto, they demand organic in their cafeteria.
They do what? It's all
Demand
organic?
demand organic, yeah. And
Gee,
another
isn't
thing
that
is,
funny?
you give those same rats that GMO, you get about a 10,000 cancer rate increase.
Yeah.
And they're sterile within 3 generations.
And now some of the I was going to try to get Dr. Senoff on the radio here sometime. She's an expert. Her and Dr. Samsell are experts on glyphosate and what that is doing to us.
And they used to say that, you could drink the stuff. It's not going to hurt you. It's benign.
Yeah, and they even had the audacity to say that it was biodegradable in France, and France took them
Yeah.
to task on that. Said, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Well, guess what? It's
not.
biodegradable.
It doesn't break down. It's-
and they had to put that on the label. But now they're getting to the point where there's a lot of scientists around the world that want it banned totally, and I am all for it myself because it is interfering with so many of the body's enzyme systems. It's implicated in obesity. It's implicated in diabetes. It's implicated in kidney disease. It's implicated in liver disease. It's implicated in so many things. It is appalling. And it's chronic autoimmune diseases, and then even where autism is concerned in these vaccinations, it works
Magnifies
synergistically.
it. Right. Yeah.
It works synergistically. It doubles the whammy. And
Not only is it a carcinogen, but it's also an estrogen mimicker. So
that's
you know,
another whole. Yeah, that's another
cancers
whole
in
aspect
women
of it.
and-
There's
and
nothing good
just-
about it. I'm
no.
sorry. It kills weeds, but it kills you too.
yeah, over time. Oh, but it doesn't do it right away. So
No, it's a nice,
okay.
slow,
Yeah.
misery containing process, but it doesn't do it right away. And
But
see,
the-
that's how they get away with it. Because if there's not an immediate effect, people think, oh, it's okay. Well, I eat it. It just tastes like food to me.
Right.
Yeah, but you just don't know what it's doing to your body
Right.
internally.
Yeah. I know.
And, I always
That's
feel
a
like
real
I'm-
frustration, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it
It's
is,
like
and it's really frustrating as a nutritionist. I used to,
Well,
I'm
but
a bad
after-
guy. You try to tell people what they need to do with their diet, and they don't want to hear it.
Right.
Oh, I like that. Well, that's
Well,
what
after
you do.
30 years of practice, it's still frustrating, but not like it used to be. It's the old saying of you can bring the horse to water.
But you can't make them drink.
You try to scoop some water up, put it in their lips and stuff, and there's a point where you're either going to drink or you're not.
Yeah.
And that's at least it's
if-
given me some peace to get that mindset that okay, I'll help who wants help.
Those with ears to hear, please
Right.
hear. And those with eyes to see, please see. And it can make a big difference in your health, much bigger than you realize. But until you're willing to get out of your comfort zone and try something different and actually make some changes, at least I like to see people to go at least 3 months, but sometimes they think that's too long. But it's really not long enough. But at least
Not
that
have
long.
dairy for 3 months?
Yeah, and
No, the rest of your life.
that's a whole other story. We could do a whole show on dairy because people just think that dairy is all that.
It is
because
good. It
does
tastes
the
good.
body good. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, Bert.
Ice cream tastes good though.
Well, I have to give you that. It does taste good.
Yeah.
I mean, you could at least make it organic, if nothing else.
And
but-
I will partake now and then. And I understand that what I'm doing is bad for me, but I'm not doing it all the time, so my body can clean it out.
Exactly.
So sure, you can just don't make it a habit of doing these bad
all
things.
The time.
Have a vice here and there. I'll smoke a cigar now and then, but it's probably been 6-9 months since I've had one. My body has cleaned whatever that gave me at that brief moment in time. It's flushed it out. So we're not saying don't enjoy life. We're just saying...
Exactly. Besides, if you give something long enough, you'll find you can enjoy life with some of the things that you thought you wouldn't be able to enjoy life with. I mean, there's some delicious fruit out there,
and I know people that are in the superfood raw
they do amazingly
market.
well.
I mean,
in a
they're
lot of
they're
things.
selling. They have companies that do this stuff, and it's delicious. And when you're eating it, it's like really good for you.
Yeah, that's a really good part about it.
In fact, there's a company. I think they might be in Vegas. We'll get to that. Go Beyond.
Okay.
Remember that.
There's so much to talk about, and we're going to have you come back again because we're running out of time.
It's been an hour already.
I guess
thought we were going on another break. We didn't even get halfway through everything.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll have to have Doc Glenn back again because we have so many other things that we'd like to cover and can cover them in even greater depth, each individual thing. And people need to know these kinds of things. And I guess we're signing off. This is Gail of Gaia.
Can I quickly plug the practice real quick so everybody knows where it is?
And let Doc Glenn tell you about his practice because he's new in town.
I just opened this practice. It's a whole different business model than what you're used to. I don't accept insurance. My idea is all that fancy stuff you have to pay for. That's the only place we get our money. So I got rid of all of that, lowered the price, so it's $30 cash only. I won't take any insurances. But that's how I keep the cost down. I'm a small office, and that way I can focus. I'm not distracted by the attorneys, the insurance adjusters, and all that nonsense. And I did this for 15 years in Ventura, California, and people love the idea. So
I like the idea too. Insurance companies cause a lot of problems in all doctors' offices because they limit their time, they limit their what they can do and what they can't do, and that sort of thing. And when you just go with cash, you don't have to worry about that.
Nope.
So we thank you so much for
number.
being here. And your phone number is
775-513-9055.
Say it again.
775-513-9055.
And that's Doc Glenn, and he's very good, I can tell you, because I've been there. I hurt my shoulder. So this is Gail of Gaia, and we're signing off. We ran out of time today, and we'll have Dr. Glenn back again, and I hope you enjoyed our show. Thank you very much.
The opinions, views, and conclusions expressed in this show are those of the show host and co-host and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of KPFV FM or its affiliates. FM or its affiliates. FM or its affiliates. FM